even this far in the game with the Quest 2, there are still companies trying to either innovate something new, something exactly the same as the old one, but at a much lower price. And it looks like DESTEK is trying to take that bottom of the mark pricing with their own facial interface. Let's check this out. So right now, this is on Amazon for $23, which is not a bad price for a facial interface. Box is almost impossible to open for some reason. And it's gonna look familiar. It's copying the designs of a lot of other facial interfaces. You've got your simple plastic here. It's got vents, but they're not huge. No vents on the bottom, only vents on the top. They did an odd thing. They send you two different face pads. One they say is the active face pad. It's thinner and it's made of cloth to soak up your sweat. I don't personally love a strap that soaks in my sweat, but it keeps it out of your eyes, they say. And then of course they give you that PU leather type with the ventilation breathing holes. This will still also take in sweat, but it's not gonna be like this one where it's like a sweat rag on your face. They send you two different nose light shields, slightly different size and shape, but nothing truly innovative about either one. They don't snap in, they don't hold on, they just kind of open up and then you put that over the plastic. I will say I've experience with a lot of these kind and they don't tend to stay on there. Try the two, and if you find one you really like, glue it in place, because over time it's just gonna keep coming off. That fold over design doesn't really hang on. That was probably the hardest I've ever snapped one in. That might actually be a good thing though, because a lot of times they wear out and then they won't stay in on the bottom. This thing, it felt like it goes in and it's not coming back out. It's pretty standard. It feels like most facial interfaces. I do like that it's actually touching me a little here, but it's not tight enough here to be putting any pressure there. It's still bouncing all the pressure across right here and on my cheekbones. Oddly, I kind of like the thinner pad. I wouldn't use it actively because I know that it's just gonna soak up sweat and that's what it's for. But for regular gaming, it's like a t-shirt fabric, almost. It's not scratchy like others, but it feels good on the skin. This is actually a nice addition. I like that pad. It feels more comfortable in the pleather, but you're not gonna wanna share this with a lot of people. It's gonna soak up face oil, it's gonna soak up sweat and everything else. But if this was just for you, and if this thing was on sale, maybe sub $20 even, because that would really put it as like one of the lowest priced facial interfaces, I would say this is a pretty decent facial interface if you're just looking for something simple, something different than the stock one. Of course, if you're gonna spend a little bit more, I would go for something that's got a fan on it. The fans just make all the difference if you're active gaming. It's decent, it does its job, and it really snaps in well. I'm gonna take it a little further with the testing. I'm gonna run over, do some gaming in here, see how badly this thing soaks up sweat. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Keeping my punches really tight because I know that desk is not far away. What they've done is they've taken a mold everyone already has, but they've changed to some sort of composite plastic that is just really strong, it feels like. It's not super flexible, you don't need it to be. But when this thing snaps in, you don't ever question, is that just gonna pop right back out, like with the other ones? I will say if for some reason you're someone who takes this off and on a lot with a glasses spacer or something like that, putting on and off, these might wear down over time and it might not stay that solid, but this is one of the only facial interfaces I've ever popped in there and thought, wow, this feels like it's really gonna stay. So for a budget facial interface, I would say this is worth your money. I would watch for that under $20 price tag on it if you really want to get one, but compared to like the AMVR one that looks like it's based off of, this feels like a superior facial interface. The biggest problem I have with it is I'm used to a fan, and if you're used to a fan, these little vents aren't gonna do enough for you. You get in there boxing in a hot room like this, and immediately it was fogging up inside the headset, and you're not gonna get something that doesn't fog unless you get something that has active cooling, or potentially something that has just a ton of vents on it and maybe does a little bit better. But for the most part, anything that doesn't have a fan, you're gonna get some fog. So I would say if you got the money, spring for something with a fan. The Bobo VR, the KK Cobb has replaced the face pad, so it's a little better than it was when I got it. But if you just want a cheap bottom of the barrel that actually is pretty much better than all the other ones, this is it. I'll leave a link in the description of that, but I will leave links to some of the fans and other ones that I really like for those of you out there who are trying to avoid that fog. Whew, and I'm gonna cool off. I wanna say thank you for coming out, and I will see you in another reality. Sweaty.